Hey you witches, it's Taya here. How you doing today? I hope all is going well with you. I want to talk about my witchcraft journey and sort of how I have and haven't practiced over 24 years. I'm not here to be like, oh, follow me, I have some amazing storied history of witchcraft, and I really don't. I think I have a very typical journey through witchcraft, journey to witchcraft. But yeah, let's get started. It all started, of course, when I was a little kid. I was raised Roman Catholic. Now, coming out of that, I have what I'll air quotes give my Catholic trauma. Nothing untoward ever happened to me in the Catholic Church, but the dogma terrified the living shit out of me, and I really had a hard time with it as a small child. And so that's a whole another video that I could do all about my Catholic trauma, but it was mild compared to what some people have gone through, so it was mild. And I knew by about 13, 14 that Christianity as a whole just was not for me. So fast forward to 1996, I was about 19 years old, and I was shopping at a local goth alternative store called Sanctuary, which I have to give them a shout out. They were an amazing store, rest in peace. They just closed a few years back. And I found this book by Scott Cunningham called Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner. And I was like, what? I had heard of Wicca, I knew it was witchcraft, but I'd never really seen a lot about it. I had no information, because you gotta remember, back in 96, we didn't have internet like we have now. And so I snapped that book up, I took it home, and I found my calling, if you will. I knew when I read that book that I was a witch, and it was such a great feeling to just know that I belonged somewhere. And what I really connected with was the goddess themes, because coming from Christianity, where it was all about God, I knew that did not work for me. So I really connected with the goddess themes and this whole idea of like a nature-based religion. But one huge caveat, Wicca itself didn't sit well with me because of the ritual. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not trying to like jam up Wicca. But at that point in my life, having come from this Roman Catholic background, anything that was ritualized was just, I just couldn't. It just did not sit well with me. So at this point I was like, okay, I'm a witch. I'll be like an eclectic solitary. I'm not really Wiccan, but I'm gonna be a witch. Yeah, that's definitely where I fit. So it was a couple of years of just sort of dabbling and playing with this idea of spellcraft, playing, I call it playing, it wasn't, it was very serious. You know, I had a little altar set up in my home. And then at 21, big life happened. At 21, I got pregnant and I had my daughter, who is now 21 herself. And it did two things. First of all, it pulled me away from actually practicing witchcraft, right? The altar went away. I still, you know, had crystals and gemstones and all that kind of stuff, but really any sort of witchcraft practice sort of fell by the wayside. But it did pull me deeper into the philosophy of witchcraft. There was still that deep knowing that I was a witch, and I was still very into all this witchiness. I just didn't necessarily practice a lot. So at this point, I really entered what I call, it's a long period of processing. It was rejecting Christianity and anything to do with ritual. I just couldn't. Rejecting any idea of God or a masculine deity, couldn't handle it. And what I was doing a lot of was comparing different faiths, looking at what else was out there for belief systems in the world, and mostly trying to figure out what did I believe about the way the world worked, right? I believed in the goddess, so then did I need to believe in a god? Was that a thing? Or maybe did I just look more at archetypes, or maybe it was more about universal consciousness? Like I was really struggling with how did I see the world and how it worked. And at this point I was reading everything and anything I could get my hands on. There wasn't a ton of literature, but what I could get, I took. and just continued to process my philosophy of how the world works. And I was still keeping up with witchcraft. I didn't do a lot, but, you know, sometimes I would think, oh, I'm going to do a spell, or I want to try something, and I find that the ingredients were just too difficult. Like, you know, they needed all these exotic ingredients that I'm like, I don't have those. And again, this is still before the days of Amazon.ca or Amazon.com. I couldn't just go on the internet and order stuff and have it shipped to me in 2 days. Like, that didn't exist then. So, and the other thing is deity work wasn't really sitting well with me. Again, I was still processing that Catholic trauma. Fast forward now to 2009. So just about, you know, that was about 10 years of processing. I had another big life moment. It was a game-changing year for me in 2009. I got married in January. I sold my home. That was my safe place in the world. I sold that so that my husband and I could buy our home together. And I got pregnant and had my son, all in the course of 9 months. It was a crazy year, and I can do a whole another video on that. Basically, my whole world tipped sideways, and yeah, I ended up at the psychiatrist's office. I'm still there to this day. And yeah, it's a whole nother video. So I was really needing a life philosophy throughout this to guide me, to help me with that bigger picture of like, why are we here? What is going on? And I always came back to my craft. I always came back to witchcraft, and I was always wanting more, but what I really found was all the books were either Wicca based, which I had already decided was not for me, or they're what I call softcore witchcraft books, Witchcraft 101 books, which are great, and I'm glad that we have so many different ways for people to come in and enter the craft now. But at this point, I was past Witchcraft 101, and I really was looking for more, and as a solitary, I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have anybody to guide me, and I just never felt like there was a more for me. Come to 2019, so this was about 10 years of trying to work through all of this, I had my epiphany moment. This is it's October 2020 now, so this was probably about June, July of 2019, and I found a book finally called Weave the Liminal, A Guide to Modern Traditional Witchcraft by Laura Tempest Zakroff. And again, whole another video. I need to do a whole another video on this book, because this was the book that really kicked in my jam for me. And from that book, Weave the Liminal, I was able to develop a daily, weekly, monthly practice. I've realized that I needed a ritual space in my life. I needed a sacred space in my life where I could go every day. I started working with local plants, right? All of a sudden, it had never occurred to me to work with my local plants, because all of the books and things I had been reading were telling me that I needed these exotic ingredients that had to be imported from Indonesia or India. Or, it was just really, and it was so refreshing. And I'm like, I started my first official book of shadows. I've had tons of journals and notes that I've kept over the years, but an official, beautiful book of shadows to really start documenting. I was like, this is what I am doing now in my life. And really what happened was, I think over all these years, I had managed to sort of heal my Catholic trauma at the same time as this discovery of creating this very personalized practice for myself, and I discovered traditional witchcraft. And funnily enough, through all of this now, I find myself working with the horn god, Sir Nunos particularly, and I find that I work with the god more than the goddess now. And with my ancestry, I have Scottish ancestry, and I'm actually looking at incorporating Catholicism into my witchcraft practice, because I'll tell you something, when you are raised with something from the day you are born throughout your entire formative years, it is very, very difficult to remove or to rejig some of those just automatic thoughts and things that were just ingrained in you from the day you were born. And it's become this full circle now where in Scottish tradition, when there was the Protestant Revolution, the Protestants started calling anything that was Catholic, that had to do with Catholicism, witchcraft. And in the folk craft of Scotland, it is full of, especially the Psalms. So I'm just starting to sort of get in and dabble with this idea that Catholicism can actually be part of my witchcraft journey. And it has taken me 24 years to get here. So I guess all of that just to say, you guys, don't rush. You'll get where you're going. Sometimes I know it feels like I just want to do it all and I want to do it now. And I mean, I wish I would have had Weave the Liminal, 15 years ago, but a year and a half ago, I'll take it. And just to say, it'll come all in good time. And it's just fascinating to look at, I find, to look at where I've come from, all that I've been through, and how it's all played into my practice and what it is today. So I hope that was of interest to some of you, and maybe you'll find a little bit of solace or inspiration in that story. And yeah, we'll come to you soon with another video. I'm trying to do about 2 a week, and I hope that they're interesting to you. If they are, hit the subscribe button, and hopefully we can hang out again soon. Thanks, guys.